Section 270-19B, use restrictions patios. The restaurant and outdoor dining patio on public space are located at 247 Rehoboth Avenue. Alex?
Thank you, Mayor. So under 215-5B, a permit of compliance or a supplementary permit of compliance shall not be issued to the applicant or to the Delaware Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission except by a favorable vote of a majority of the members of the City Commissioners. In reaching their decision, the Commissioner shall consider the following factors, including but not limited to, whether the applicant has demonstrated that the establishment's primary purpose will be that of a restaurant or dinner theater as defined in this chapter. Next, whether the establishment meets all of the city's applicable zoning and licensing provisions. 3, whether the establishment would be a detriment to the peace, order, and quiet of the neighborhood and the city. Next, whether the establishment will have an adverse impact on the neighboring properties or on the city of Rehoboth Beach, considering the impact on parking, traffic, and noise. And 5, whether the applicant has made any false misrepresentations or statements to the city's employees or the commissioners in order to induce or prevent action by the city, not only in regard to the pertinent pending application under this chapter, but also in regard to the issuance of a building permit or business license for the subject establishment. And so there are a set of materials embedded in the agenda that I'd like to move into the public record. There was a public notice for this hearing. It was posted on the city's website on May 15th, 2023. It was also published in the Cape Gazette and in the Delaware State News, both on Friday, May 19th, 2023. And notice was given to residents within 200 feet. There's also a building inspector's report from Matthew Janis, the building official, to the mayor and commissioners. That is dated May 19th, 2023. This is actually a revised version. Embedded in the agenda is the version that became public on May 31st, 2023. There's also application number 0323-03, restaurant permit of compliance, dining and patio, and outdoor dining on public space supplemental permit of compliance for Lupo DeMar. Is that correct?
I was going to say
Damari, okay.
I thought, but I didn't want to mispronounce it.
247-C Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. And the permit of compliance application was received by the Office of the Secretary on May 9th, 2023. Indicates it's an application for an amended restaurant permit of compliance and dining patio / outdoor dining on public space supplemental permit of compliance. Submittal checklist is attached and signed by Scott Kammerer. And I don't see the standard stamp on this application for the fee of $1,250, but I think that might be a non-issue because there was a previous application that hasn't been heard yet. Is that correct, Matt, that this is being carried over to this application, the fee?
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
I do have a copy of a check in our submitted documentation that confirms the $1,250 has been paid.
Great. Also included in the application is the checklist for compliance with zoning code, sections 270-19, titled Use Restrictions. Additionally included in the checklist for compliance with zoning code section 270-19, specific to dining patios. There is a sample menu included in the application, and that was received by the Office of the City Secretary on May 9th, 2023. There is a document titled Lupo Interior Seated Dining Plan, dated 5/5/23, prepared by Archaeology, Architectures and Design Services. There is a boundary plan for 247 Rehoboth Avenue, dated February 21st, 2008, and prepared by Mirstone Consultants, Inc. And also included in this application is the outdoor dining area on public space application, which is required pursuant to 215-3D9, which requires a completed outdoor dining on public space application to be furnished to the city. That application is signed by Danielle Panarello and dated 2/28/23, and it requires all of the elements mandated by 215-26, including a construction drawing for Lupo Italian Kitchen, prepared by Archaeology, Architecture, and Design Services on April 26, 2023. An approval letter from the owner of the property, the landlord here, for Lupo to operate on public space. A valid City of Rehoboth business license, which is active and expires New Year's Eve of this year. State business license, which is active and expires New Year's Eve of this year. A Delaware Alcoholic Beverage Control Commissioner license with license number 14730. A certificate of liability insurance, which is required under the city code for Lupo to provide commercial general liability insurance. There's also a signed waiver and indemnification agreement, which is signed by the applicant on April 17th, 2023. A seating plan for the restaurant that used to occupy that space, Spiaggia Italian Kitchen. And that seating plan is approved, stamped by the state by the city on March 18th, 2008. And that is what you have in front of you right now.
I have no idea why they changed their name, but perhaps because nobody could pronounce the darn thing. We'll see. Thank you, Alex. We appreciate that. With that, I think our next item is to hear the building inspector's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon to you, the commissioners, public, and city employees. Before you today is application 0323-03. It's a restaurant permit of compliance, dining patio and outdoor dining on public space supplemental permit of compliance for Lupo Del Mare, 247-C, Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. This application is for a restaurant permit of compliance and a dining patio, bless you, and outdoor dining on public space supplemental permit of compliance. While the applicant was previously granted a license to sell alcoholic liquor on the premises by the state of Delaware, Alcoholic Beverage Control Commissioner, the city does not have documentation of the applicant receiving a restaurant permit of compliance from the city. The restaurant that formerly occupied the premises known as Spiaggia Italian Kitchen received a permit of compliance from the city on March 17th, 2008. However, the city does not have any documentation of the transfer of that permit of compliance to the applicant. A restaurant permit of compliance is a prerequisite to receive the outdoor dining on public space supplemental permit of compliance sought by the applicant. The following is a complete report for the application referenced above to be heard. Pursuant to section 215-3, the applicant is Scott Kammerer, P.O. Box 49, Rehoboth, Delaware, 19971. The name of the restaurant is Lupo Del Mare Cucina Italiano, a.k.a. Lupo Italian Kitchen, located inside Hotel Rehoboth. The restaurant is a table service establishment serving dinner. The space serves a continental breakfast that is available to hotel guests only. Pursuant to the plan submitted, the following is true. The property is indeed located at 247-C Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. The structure is a multi-story building with a hotel use and a proposed area for permanent seated dining in a C1 Central Commercial Zoning District. Pursuant to Section 270-13C3D, a restaurant serving alcoholic beverages is a permitted use. The following is a list of the restaurant areas. The service area to include kitchen facilities, storage, restrooms, employee stations, hallways, and utilities. As applied for, the applicant lists 1,111 square feet. I have them calculated as 1,138 square feet. The dining area is applied for as 754 square feet. I have them at a little over 787 square feet. We both have applied 74 permanent seated dining area. The bar area listed by the applicant is 88 square feet. With the floor plan that I have included, you can see that my calculation is 137 square feet. There is no dance floor for this application. Bar seats from the applicant is 7. I have counted 7. The restaurant gross floor area is 1,865. I have it calculated as 2,062 square feet. I believe exterior walls were not included in that calculation. And the ratio of bar to permanent seated dining is both applied for as 9% and calculated as 9%. There is a patio space for this permit of compliance. There are 8 seats to be located on an area designated at the front of the building on both private and public space. The space is shown on submitted documentation and calculated to be a total of 354 square feet. 36-inch tall planters shall be used with dense vegetation that total 42 inches tall, and it does count as an approved barrier type. The designated areas for proposed food storage and preparation are shown and labeled on the attached plans. The trash storage areas are located on a submitted survey, and the grease trap is located on the submitted floor plan, which I have called out in bubble and notation. The distance to the nearest property lines of the nearest church, public park, and residential lot are as follows. The closest church is the Westminster Presbyterian Church, approximately 2,657 feet by way of Rehoboth Avenue and south on South First Street. Lake Gerard, approximately 1,524 feet by way of Rehoboth Avenue to north on 2nd Street. And the closest residential lot is zoned R2, is 71 Lake Avenue, approximately 54 feet to the rear of the property located on Lake Avenue. It's actually used as an R2. The applicant has stated that the approximate percentage of revenue between the sale of alcohol and food is 20% alcohol and 80% food. Authorization for the city to investigate is attached. Written and dated declaration by the applicant is attached. The fee of $1,250 has been paid, and a completed outdoor dining on public space license application is attached for this approval as well. Any questions?
Any questions of the building inspector? If not, thank you, Matt. We'll go to the applicant's representative. Will you introduce yourself, please?
Again, I'm still Vince Robertson with the law firm of Parkowski, Girk, and Swayze. Thank you for allowing us to present this application. Just a little bit of background, and I'll be brief because I think it's fairly self-explanatory in large part. My clients applied for the patio seating, which is before you, and as part of that process, there was a recognition that the city did not have an updated floor plan for Lupo that has been in existence for however long it's been in existence. And so, as housekeeping, we were required to do both, to clarify the city's records to show that there is an approved floor plan for the interior space as well as this new exterior space. There was a lot of conversation between Danielle, myself, Evan, and also Glenn and Matt, I think, along the way, trying to sort this out. I was involved in the process when Matt Haley passed away, and the best I can surmise, and I think Terry Sullivan was the building official at that time, is we had to do effective transfers for, I think, 12 different restaurants in different jurisdictions. And as I recall, you have to understand this wasn't a transfer in the normal sense. There wasn't a sale that was occurring. There wasn't new ownership per se. We had Matt Haley who passed away, and there was just a new corporate structure being created with the same people running the restaurants absent Matt Haley. So the only thing I can imagine is, there was a determination at some point that wasn't documented by any of us that this wasn't something that triggered a new permit of compliance because essentially nothing was changed. Anyhow, that's where we are today. And so what you have before you is a floor plan that confirms the seating that is there today and has been there today for the interior space. That way everybody's good with the records in the city. And then we have the request to install 4 two-top tables, effectively 8 seats right outside of the exterior, or right on the outside of the restaurant, which is essentially the same that's been there throughout COVID. So that won't be any real, market change from what you all have seen walking down Rehoboth Avenue and hopefully enjoying a meal in the restaurant for the past however many years. So with that, unless there's any questions, I don't think there's really a whole lot more to the application.
Any questions by the commissioners? If not, this is a public hearing. I'd like to open it to members of the public to speak up in favor or against, or any comments. Is there anybody who would like to say anything on this restaurant? Identify yourself and your relationship to the city, Jeff.
Hello, my name is Jeff Hamer, and I actually am a property owner at 167 Rehoboth Avenue under Bay Reach LLC. I also live at 113 Draper Drive in Seabreeze, and I've been a resident of Sussex County and of the approximate 2-mile area for 33 years. So I'm all in favor of this, and I'm in favor of them having a patio and for them to get their certificate of compliance. They've been a wonderful restaurant. I think they operate in a proper manner with seated dining, not people milling around all the time and everything, and they have a wonderful product, and it's definitely an advantage for them to be in the community. So I'm all for it.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, there's no other members of the public that want to speak, so we'll close the public hearing portion of this meeting and bring it in front of the commissioners. We do have in front of us different drawings, including the layout on the interior, the layout on the exterior. The layout on the exterior looks a little smaller area than what they used last year. And that's because they're actually following the design lines that have been codified since then. So they appear to be in compliance there. They've got a 9-foot buffer zone. Remember, the design manual dictates a minimum of pedestrian access route, and they fulfill that, and the rest of it's the area's buffer. So with that, bring it back to the commissioners. Reminder that we are entertaining 2 items today, and that is a permit of compliance request to modify the interior floor plan and name. And secondly, applying for a supplemental permit of compliance for outdoor dining on the public space request. Commissioners, entertain any additional discussion or a motion?
Would you like 2 separate motions or one?
It can be one.
One.
It can be
We
one.
usually do it one.
If you can combine them, is fine with me.
So I propose to make a motion to grant a restaurant permit of compliance and a dining patio supplemental permit of compliance to Lupo de Mar Italian Kitchen. I find the following to be true. The proper application for a restaurant permit of compliance and a dining patio supplemental permit of compliance has been filed, that the proper fee has been paid, the proper notifications have been made, that all parties wishing to be heard have been heard. The primary purpose of that is that of a restaurant, that the restaurant and dining patio meet the city's applicable zoning and licensing provisions, that the restaurant and dining patio would not be a detriment to the peace, order, and quiet of the neighborhood and the city, that the restaurant and dining patio will not have an adverse impact on the neighboring properties or on the city of Rehoboth Beach, considering the impact of traffic, parking, and noise, that the applicant has made no false statements to the city employees or their commissions. I'd make a motion that the city manager issue the applicants a permit of compliance for the operation of a restaurant and a supplemental permit of compliance for the operation of a dining patio to be associated with the restaurant.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Patrick Gossett and a second by Commissioner Tony Sharp to authorize the city manager to enter into a permit of compliance request for the noted restaurant and to issue a supplemental permit of compliance for outdoor dining on public space request. Is there any further discussion?
Friendly amendment.
Yes, sir.
On public space should be added following dining patio on the Commissioner Gossett's reference.
Accepted.
Yeah, as well, you want to second it?
Second.
All those in favor by saying yes to the friendly amendment?
Yes.
Okay, yes, all righty. I just do a quick comment. Again, they were a good citizen of the city last year, operating their outdoor dining patio. This year it's just a little smaller because we codified the outdoor dining guide and decreased some of the dimensions there. I know by way of application, it makes note that 270-19, the use restrictions are applicable and will be adhered to, including no entertainment on the patio, no music on the patio, etc. So we obviously expect that to be adhered to. Is there any additional discussion among the commissioners? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? And the motion's carried unanimously. Congratulations. Now, we're going to go, you don't get to leave yet. Next item of business will be consider authorizing a license agreement for a dining patio to be located on public space for Lupo de Mare Italian Kitchen. The restaurant and dining patio are located at 247 Rehoboth Avenue. Now that we have approved an outdoor supplemental agreement to allow the outdoor dining on the public space, now we actually have to do a second step, and that is to agree to allow them to occupy that space. This is not a public hearing, although I will call on members of the public to speak up if they like. But I'd like to say, do you want to say anything, Matt?
Nothing to add, Mayor.
Would you like a motion, Mayor?
Well, we want to give the opportunity for the applicant to say anything either. No.
I would incorporate the record from the prior hearing into this application.
Okay, let me bring it up here real quick. One note on the license agreement, it makes reference to certain drawings, and I'd like to make sure that those drawings are actually stapled physically to this and incorporated in it so that we can't ever lose those, and they're always associated with it. And otherwise, yes, I'm ready to entertain a motion. Commissioner Srnowski?
Just one point of clarification. I think in some of the documents, it is referenced Lupo de Mare DE LLC and just Lupo de Mare LLC. What is the correct? I've seen it both ways.
DE was the one I saw on the state website for corporations.
Yeah, it is the DE, as I recall.
Okay. Mayor, I move that we authorize the mayor to enter into a license agreement for the use of public space between the city and Lupo de Mare DE LLC.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ed Srnowski and a second by Commissioner Tony Sharp to authorize the mayor to enter into a license agreement before us between the city and Lupo de Mare LLC. Is there any discussion? Is there any members of the public who would like to comment one way or another? If not, then I'll call the question. All those in favor of the authorizing the license agreement before us signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? And the license agreement is unanimously authorized. Thank you very much. You all may go if you like.
Thank you. May they all be this
Thank
easy.
you. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Danielle. With that, we'll move backwards to item number one. The chef was busy and arrived a few minutes late. The purpose of this item number 3 today is a public hearing to determine 3 items. One is an amended permit of compliance request. One is a supplemental permit of compliance for outdoor dining on private space. And the third is a supplemental permit of compliance for outdoor dining on private space, and the third is on public space. So we have 3 items before us there. The requests are by Jeff Hamer of J.R. Claus LLC for the modification of the floor plan of the restaurant servicing alcoholic beverages known as Claus Seafood, and to operate an outdoor dining patio serving alcoholic beverages on private space, and to operate an outdoor dining patio serving alcoholic beverages on public space. in conjunction with the restaurant known as Claus Seafood pursuant to Municipal Code Section 215-11, modifications of floor plan, and Section 270-19B, use restrictions, dining patios. The restaurant and outdoor patios are located at 167 Rehoboth Avenue. With that, I see Jeff Hamer is here to represent himself. We'll turn it over to Alex Byrne, the solicitor, to give us initial notes.
Thank you,
please.
Mayor. There are a set of materials included in the agenda. I'd just like to move those into the record. There's a public notice dated May 15th, 2023. That was posted on the website of the city that day, and the public notice was posted in the Cape Gazette and the Delaware State News on Friday, May 26th, 2023, and also provided to residents within 200 feet of the applicant's establishment. There's also a building inspector's report from Matt Janis to the mayor and commissioners. It's dated May 19th, 2023 for application number 0323-07, amended permit of compliance, dining patio and outdoor dining on public space, supplemental permit of compliance for Claus Seafood House, 167 Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. And the application for a permit of compliance was received by the Office of the Secretary on May 4th, 2023. The application indicates it is being applied for is an amended restaurant permit of compliance and a dining patio on outdoor public space and private space supplemental permit of compliance. There's a submittal checklist attached and signed by Jeff Hamer. It includes a city stamp indicating the fee of $1,250 has been paid. Included also is a checklist for compliance with zoning code section 270-19 titled use restrictions, and also a checklist for compliance with zoning code 270-19 use restrictions specific to dining patios. There's also a sample menu included, received by the city on May 4th, 2023. There is a boundary survey for 167 Rehoboth Avenue, dated April 11th, 2022, prepared by Foresight Services. There's a survey titled Claus Outdoor Seating Edition, prepared by Design Del Marva, dated 3/1/22, which also depicts the interior of the building and the second floor interior. There's a two-dimensional drawing for a proposed floor plan prepared by Blue Design Del Marva, documenting the proposed modifications. And just like the last application we heard, this also includes a application for a outdoor dining area license required by 215-3D9. And that application is signed by Jeff Hamer and dated 3/21/23 and contains all of the requirements under code section 215-26. There's also a signed waiver and indemnification agreement, an approval letter from the landlord, Daria Danielle, who is the CFO of Bay Reach LLC, and that's the entity that owns the premises in question, giving permission for Claus to provide outdoor seating if approved by the city. There's also a City of Rehoboth Beach business license for Claus Crab House, issued 2/7/23, an expiration date of New Year's Eve of this year. Also included is a valid state business license running through the end of 2025, and a Delaware Alcoholic Beverage Control Commissioner's license granted to the applicant with license number 13636, a certificate of liability insurance for Claus Crab House, indicating that the applicant has procured a policy of commercial general liability insurance as required by the city code. And there is a letter from the former city manager dated 2/22/06, documenting that the city granted the applicant a permit of compliance on January 18th, 2006. There's also a state fire marshal permit for Claus and a Delaware Health and Human Services food establishment permit for Claus Crab House. And that's what's included.
Thank you, Alex. Any questions of the attorney? If not, we'll move on to building and licensing report. Matt Janis, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is application number 0323-07. It is for an amended restaurant permit of compliance, dining patio and outdoor dining on public space supplemental permit of compliance for Claus Seafood House, 167 Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. This application is to amend the existing permit of compliance and existing dining patio supplemental permit of compliance and add an outdoor dining on public space permit of compliance. The floor plans for the existing previously approved permit of compliance and dining patio supplemental permit of compliance have not been changed and reflect current records for the existing permit. Excuse me. The following is a complete report for the application referenced above to be heard pursuant to Section 215-3. Applicant is J.R. Claus, LLC, P.O. Box 485, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. The name of the restaurant is Claus Seafood House. The restaurant is a table service establishment serving a lunch and dinner. Pursuant to the plans submitted, the following is true. The property is indeed located at 167 Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. The structure is a multi-story building with a permanent seated dining in a C1 Central Commercial Zoning District. Pursuant to Section 27013C3D, a restaurant serving alcoholic beverages is a permitted use. Restaurant areas are as follows: service area, kitchen facilities, storage, restrooms, employee stations, hallways, and utilities are applied for as 864. I have calculated 1356. I believe the difference is in the storage room located in the basement. The dining area, as applied for and calculated, is 703 square feet. The permanent seated count is applied for and calculated at 68. The bar area is applied for at 161. I've calculated 164. There is no dance floor for this application. As applied for and calculated, there are 12 bar seats. And the overall restaurant square footage as applied for is 2,488. I've calculated 2,745. The ratio of bar to permanent seated dining is both applied for and calculated as 17.6%. There is a patio for this permit of compliance. There are 28 seats located on the existing covered porch consisting of 384 square feet. The applicant wishes to add 26 seats located at the front and right side of the property consisting of 340 square feet. Additionally, the applicant desires to place 10 seats on public space consisting of 241 square feet. Outdoor dining consisting of existing and proposed space located on the applicant's property and public space shall total 965 square feet. There shall be 64 seats total located in the designated areas. The designated areas for proposed food storage and preparation are shown and labeled on the attached plans. Trash storage areas and grease traps are located on the documents. The distance to the nearest property lines of the nearest church, public park, and residential lot are as follows. Westminster Presbyterian Church, approximately 1,826 feet by way of Rehoboth Avenue to South First Street. Lake Gerard, approximately 837 feet by way of Rehoboth Avenue to 2nd Street. And the nearest residential lot is Zone C1, but is a residential use for 60 Baltimore Avenue, approximately 458 feet by way of Rehoboth Avenue to 2nd Street. The applicant has stated that the approximate percentage of revenue between the sale of alcohol and food is 25% alcohol and 75% food. Authorization for the city to investigate is attached. Written and dated declaration by the applicant is attached. The fee of $1,250 has been paid, and a completed outdoor dining on public space license is attached for approval. Questions, if any?
Any questions of the building inspector? If not, Jeff, if you'd like to say anything, you can take the lectern or the microphone or sit there.
Jeff Hamer.
Would you like to offer anything?
I'm Jeff Hamer. I'm representing Claw's Seafood House for Bay Reach LLC as well. I live at 113 Draper Drive in Seabreeze and still live there. And I'm here to request usage of the sidewalk and part of my property for a patio license for approximately, well, I'm not sure if I'm counting the seats on my property or not, but for four tops on city property, partially on city property, as you can see across the front there. I think I've proven in the last 3 years that I operate in a proper manner. All my dining, seated dining. You know, all my customers are seated as per the restaurant ordinance in town. And I walk the line and I do it properly. So I'm a seated dining restaurant, 75-25, and I've been operating in town for 32 years, since 91. So with multiple restaurant licenses and eatery licenses, if you count Java Beach. So I don't think in that time I've really run afoul of the city at all. So I think I'm a perfect applicant for this patio license. So thank you very much for your time. And I apologize for being late too. I was rebuilding the fence. We had a fundraiser at Big Horse yesterday for 1,500 people for Camp Barnes. And I put my keys down in the grass when I was repairing some of the fence that the kids had knocked down, the plastic fence, and I couldn't find it when I got back there today. I realized I didn't have my keys on me, and I'm like, I prepared several different pieces of fence, and we were looking all over the grass for the fence and for my keys, and we finally found them, so I apologize.
You're fine, thank you, worked out fine. This is maybe a complicated layout for some people. I'd like to just refer to the screen. Here is their main building. If you recall, Claw's is the restaurant immediately east of the post office. This is the front side of their indoor dining area of the house perimeter. This is this light green area here is the front porch area that actually is part of the dining patio area, correct? And then the new addition to the dining patio on private land is all in the blue area here. Correct? If I'm saying everything, all right, I want to see you nod your heads. And then the dining area on public space is in the orange area there. So just so we're oriented there. And again, we are looking at an amended permit of compliance request to deal with all this area. We're also dealing with a permit of compliance for private space. Now that private space is the blue plus the green, correct, Matt?
That is correct, Mayor.
So it's the green plus the blue here. And then we're also looking at the third item, which is a supplemental permit of compliance for outdoor dining on public space, which again is the orange space here. So there are our three areas. With that, do you want to remind, are there any commissioner comments? With that, I'll remind everybody this is a public hearing. Any comments by no to you, no to you? Okay, so we don't have any members of the public. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing portion of that and bring it back to the commissioners. Is there any discussion? Please bring it up, or I would entertain a motion. Again, we have three things on our plate today.
Mayor, I move we grant a amended restaurant permit of compliance and a dining patio supplemental permit of compliance on public and private space for Claw's Seafood. I find the following to be true. The proper application for a restaurant permit of compliance and dining patio supplemental permit of compliance on both private and public space has been filed, that the proper fee has been paid, that the proper that the proper fee has been paid, the proper notifications have been made, that all parties wishing to be heard have been heard, that the primary purpose is that of a restaurant based on their application and menu submitted, that the restaurant and dining patio meet the city's applicable zoning and licensing provisions, that the restaurant and dining patios would not be a detriment to the peace, order, and quiet of the neighborhood and the city, that the restaurant and dining patio will not have an adverse impact on neighboring properties or on the city of Rehoboth Beach, considering the impact on traffic, parking, and noise, that the applicant has made no false statements to the city employees or the commissioners. Therefore, I make a motion that the city manager issue the applicants an amended permit of compliance for the operation of a restaurant and 2 supplemental permit of compliance for the operation of dining patios on both private and public space to be associated with the restaurant named Claus Seafood.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ed Stronowski and a second by Commissioner Tony Sharp to authorize the city manager to enter an agreement with amended permit of compliance and issue a supplemental permit of compliance for dining patio on private space and issuing a supplemental permit of compliance for outdoor dining on public space for the restaurant known as Claus Seafood. Is there any discussion? I just want to repeat what I did for the previous one, and a reminder that 270-19's code is part of your application, and that has use restrictions in it that includes no entertainment on the patio, no music on the patio, et cetera, as well as it being included in the motion that's our expectations. Is there any further discussion by the commissioners? If not, I would say all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the motion's passed unanimously. With that, give me a second. And we'll move on to the license agreement, which is the next item of business. Now that you've been issued permission to sell alcohol and establish a dining area on public sidewalk, we have to authorize a license agreement that actually allows you to set up on that public sidewalk. Again, I would just say that there's a reference in here to the drawings, and they're not part of the drawing package here, so I want to make sure that they are indeed attached to this license agreement when it's filed so that we don't lose them. And with that, is there anything that you want to offer, Matt?
No, nothing additional, Mayor.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Do you want to offer anything?
I do not believe so at this time.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Back up to the commissioners. Any members of the public? Nope. With that, we'll bring it back to the commissioners and offer any discussion points or a motion to authorize the mayor to enter into the license agreement between the city and J.R. Claus.
Mayor, I move we authorize the mayor to enter into a license agreement with J.R. Claus LLC.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ed Chernowski and a second by Commissioner Patrick Gossett to authorize the mayor to enter an agreement between Claus Seafood or J.R. Claus and the city to utilize that public space in front of their restaurant as noted in the application. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion is approved unanimously. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. With that, we're going to go to our fifth item of business on this special agenda, and that is to, if desired, to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing the qualifications of individual candidates for employment as permitted by 29 Del.C. 10,004B1, also known as the Freedom of Information Act, and for the purpose of discussing personnel matters in which the names, competency, and abilities of individual employees are discussed, as also permitted by 29 Del.C. 10,004B9, and for the purpose of discussing the content of documents excluded from the definition of public record under the Freedom of Information Act, as permitted by 29 Del.C. Section 10,004, B6.
So moved.
If there's a desire, then I would entertain a motion to go into executive session. And I'd like you to read that again, please.
Sure. Mayor, I move we enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing the qualification of individual candidates for employment as permitted by 21 Del.C. 10,004B1, and for the purpose of discussing personnel matters in which names, competency, and abilities of individual employees are discussed as permitted by 29 Del.C. 10,004B9, and for the purpose of discussing the content of documents excluded from the definition of public record under the Freedom of Information Act as permitted by 29 Del.C. 10,004B6.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ed Chernowski and a second by Commissioner Jay Legree to go into executive session for the purposes noted verbally as well as noted in the agenda. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of going into executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And so we will be going into executive session. I would like to share before we leave that the time frame for being in executive session, we're going to go into the caucus room over here and leave this room. The timeline for conducting business over there is unknown. We don't know how long we'll be. We do know that we will come back into the public session to take any action and to adjourn the meeting or continue the meeting. There is no expectation at this time that there will be any action that we will take coming back into this room. And so the need to stay is maybe perhaps not there, but you're welcome to stay for this meeting. With that, we are adjourned to go into executive session next door. This is a continuation of the special meeting on Monday, June 5th, 2 p.m. I'd like to entertain a motion to come out of executive session back into public session.
Mayor, so moved.
Second.
Mayor, so
We have a motion by Commissioner Edstronowski and a second by Commissioner Sharp to come out of executive session and back into public session. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and we are now back into public session. There is no actions that were taken in executive session, nor are there any actions to take place out of executive session, back into public session. Therefore, this meeting is adjourned at 4:07 p.m. Thank you very much. You got